Hi. Welcome to the Annotated Public Domain movie watch party of the Llano County Library. We are going to talk about The House on Haunted Hill, which is our public domain movie for this month. You can't miss the heart-rending scream that kicks off The House on Haunted Hill, and we're actually going to take a pause to listen to that, and then we're going to talk about Scream Queens. So about 8 seconds into the movie, you're going to hear a heart-rending scream. So it's a classic scream. The opening sequence in The House on Haunted Hill was so popular, it actually started the craze for Halloween sound records. The horror film Scream represents a long and often stereotypical tradition of screaming ingenues in horror films dating back to the beginning of sound movies. The term began in the 1930s with Fay Wray, who played the human obsession of King Kong. Apparently, after filming her scene, she had to spend a day at the studio recording screams. In The House on Haunted Hill, most of the screaming within the movie was performed by Carolyn Craig. She's the young ingenue in the movie, and you will notice she's very good at screaming. To invoke terror in the audience, a good scream was considered essential by horror writers of the day. In fact, a Time magazine article explains scientific studies in 2015 that showed hearing a scream actually activates parts of the brain that stimulate fear. So the usually younger women actors who found themselves in these roles were dubbed Scream Queens by the press and horror fans. It's a term you may hear often when discussing older horror films or more recent slasher or horror fare. In the beginning of Scream Queens, the screams were often paired with an inability to stay upright when running away and the need for constant assistance. But in recent decades, the screams of fright are often now matched with screams of rage, and the actors often include martial arts and other skills to match. So you will see that some of the current Scream Queens are often very proficient in martial arts and in taking care of themselves, but they can still rip out a very good scream. So you may be asking yourself, does including a well-placed scream really induce terror? Well, scream science is actually fairly new. In 2015, Time magazine reported on a new scream study published in the Journal of Current Biology. For science and fun, I quote the 2015 article by Tanya Basu, exactly why we scream has remained a mystery. Now, new research published in the journal Current Biology suggests that hearing a scream may activate the brain's fear circuitry, acting as a cautionary signal. David Pepple, a professor of psychology and neuroscience at New York University, and his co-authors collected screams from YouTube, films, and 19 different volunteer screamers who screamed in a lab sound booth. The researchers first measured the sound properties of screams versus normal conversation. They measured the scream's volume and looked at how volunteers responded behaviorally to screams. They then looked at brain images of people listening to screams and saw something they found fascinating. Screams weren't being interpreted by the brain the way normal sounds were. Normally, your brain takes the sound you hear and it delivers it to a section of your brain dedicated to making sense of these sounds, said the article. Screams, however, don't seem to follow that route. Instead, the team discovered the screams went from the ear to the amygdala, the brain's fear processing warehouse, says Pepple. In other words, screams let humans know very, very quickly that something is very, very wrong. So apparently, early filmmakers already knew this without the studies. The scream queen or king is still an integral part of many movies. And you can find many of these movies at the Llano County Library. We have everything from Godzilla to the latest version of It. So come on into the Llano County Library and we've got some great books to read to cause your hair to rise, or we've got some great DVDs so you can hear some other current Scream Queen and Kings. And just a quick aside, how loud can a scream get? According to the Guinness Book of Records, the loudest scream on record was set by classroom assistant Jill Drake of the United Kingdom. Her scream reached 129 decibels, which is somewhere between a pneumonic drill and a jet taking off. You can also, so if you want more information on this, you can download transcripts of the scripts of our annotated sections, which include links to sources for the script. So all of this information you can find online with some fun links to more information about Scream Queens and screaming. So we're going to start the movie, and you can hear that scream again all for yourself.
The ghosts are moving tonight, restless, hungry. May I introduce myself? I'm Watson Pritchard. In just a minute, I'll show you the only really haunted house in the world. Since it was built a century ago, 7 people, including my brother, have been murdered in it. Since then, I've owned the house. I've only spent 1 night there, and when they found me in the morning, I was almost dead.
I'm Frederick Lauren, and I've rented the house on Haunted Hill tonight so that my wife can give a party. A haunted house party. She's so amusing. There'll be food and drink and ghosts, and perhaps even a few murders. You're all invited. If any of you will spend the next 12 hours in this house, I'll give you each $10,000, or your next of kin in case you don't survive. Ah, but here come our other guests. It was my wife's idea to have our guests come in funeral cars. She's so amusing. Her sense of humor is, shall we say, original. I dreamed up the hearse. It's empty now, but after a night in the house on Haunted Hill, who knows? This is Lance Schroeder, a test pilot, so no doubt a brave man. But don't you think you can be much braver if you're paid for it? And I happen to know that Lance needs the $10,000 I'll give him, if he's brave enough to stay all night. This is Ruth Bridges. You've no doubt read her column in the newspapers. She says her reason for coming to the party is to write a feature article on ghosts. She's also desperate for money. Gambles. You've already met Watson Pritchard, a man living in mortal fear of a house, and yet he is risking his life to spend another night here. I wonder why. He says for money. This is Dr. David Trent, a psychiatrist. He claims that my ghost will help his work on hysteria. But don't you see a little touch of greed there around the mouth and eyes? This is Nora Manning. I picked her from the thousands of people who work for me because she needed the $10,000 more than most. Supports her whole family. Isn't she pretty? The party's starting now, and you have until midnight to find the house on Haunted Hill.
Where's everybody?
It isn't a very warm welcome, is it?
Only the ghosts in this house are glad we're here.
Are we all strangers to each other? Don't you two know each other?
I'm afraid I don't even know your name.
I'm Nora Manning.
Lance Schroeder.
Is Frederick Lauren a friend of yours?
I've heard of him, but I've never met him.
I work for one of his companies, but I've never seen him.
I've never met the man either. Just a phone call. Do you know him?
No,
Well, then you're the only one of us who does.
I don't know him. All the details about renting the house were done by mail.
He's quite wealthy, isn't he?
Millions.
And 5 wives, I believe.
4, I think, so far.
A $50,000 party for only 5 people is a little steep, even for a millionaire.
Well, if I were going to haunt anybody, this would certainly be the house I'd do it in.
Who closed the door?
This thing's made of solid steel.
Annabelle. Our guests are here, unfortunately still alive. Is your face on yet?
Dust and dirt everywhere, and the water barely trickles. Couldn't you have had the place cleaned?
Atmosphere, darling. You know how ghosts are. They never tidy up. And that's a very fetching outfit, but hardly suitable for a party.
I'm not going to the party.
The spend-the-night ghost party was your idea, remember? Since it's going to cost me $50,000, I want you to have fun.
The party was my idea until you invited all the guests. Why all these strangers? Why none of our friends?
Friends? Do we have any friends?
No, your jealousy took care of that.
I had a reason for inviting each guest. I wanted kind of a cross-section. From psychiatrist to typist, and from drunk to jet pilot. They share one thing. They all need money. Now let's see if they're brave enough to earn it.
And you call this a party?
Could be.
Why do you always do that? It spoils the champagne.
It might explode.
Never does.
Would you guarantee that?
That isn't funny, Frederick.
Make a good headline. Playboy kills wife with champagne cork. Will you join me?
No, thank you.
Just a sip might improve your humor.
My humor is fine, thanks. And I haven't poisoned it.
It's always good to know that. Have some. You'll enjoy the party more. Go on.
Your trust is so touching. And I'm not going to the party.
Of all my wives, you're the least agreeable.
But still alive.
Would you go away for $1 million tax-free? You want it all, don't you?
I deserve it all. Your jealousy isn't tax-free. And your possessiveness is maddening.
If ever a man had grounds for divorce,
But can't prove them.
the time will come. You'll slip up one of these days,
Think so?
if I live long enough. You remember the fun we had when you poisoned me?
Something you ate, the doctor said.
Yes, arsenic on the rocks. Annabelle, you'd do it again if you thought you could get away with it, wouldn't you?
Darling, what makes you think that?
Something about you. I hear that hanging is very uncomfortable, in case you get any more ideas. Now, don't let the ghosts and the ghouls disturb you, darling.
Darling, The only ghoul in the house is you.
And don't sit up all night thinking of ways to get rid of me. It makes wrinkles.
Vincent Price, the prince of horror flicks and lover of the visual arts. What most connoisseurs of old-fashioned horror flicks know about Vincent Price, the star of The House on Haunted Hill, is that he was born May 27th, 1911 in St. Louis, Missouri. They may know that he died in 1993 on October 25th in Los Angeles, California. They'd probably certainly know that he started many horror classics, including his movie The Tingler, House of Usher, and a series of Edgar Allan Poe inspired movies, including The Pit and the Pendulum, all of which are great books, and you can find them at the library or on Overdrive. They would also know that Price starred in a movie with other horror icons, including Boris Karloff of Frankenstein, Peter Lorre from M, and Peter Cushing of Doctor Who and the Daleks. But what they may not know is how deeply his love of art went and how much of his life the visual arts became. His autobiography, I Like What I Know, a visual autobiography, traces his love of the visual arts and incorporates his philosophy of art and life. And I'm going to show you a cover of that book. And we have a copy of this book here at the Llano Library that you can check out. It'll be available for the next couple of months as part of our outreach around this movie. And it's really fascinating because just like many of our own patrons, he had a day job that he did, which is basically being in film, but he had a whole other life outside of it. We have many people who are authors, who are artists, who are craftspeople, who are interested in many other things. And this is an aspect of his life that is really fascinating. And his autobiography is very engaging. It talks about the first 48 years of his life from the perspective of someone who decided to be a perfect audience for art. While his own talents did not lean towards creating the visual arts, he dedicated himself to becoming the best possible audience for him. As a teenager on a trip to Italy, he realized, and you can read this on pages of 54 and 55 of the book, somewhere it came to me that I was not going to be blessed with creative genius. And somewhere it may also have been at this moment that I made up my mind that as long as this was true, I had darn well better compensate for it by becoming the most receptive human being I could become. I knew for sure that I liked art, and I'd better know everything I could about what I liked. I became an audience then and there for the drama of the eye. And once you accept that fact, it is almost impossible ever again to be bored with life. You have a built-in recipe for the cure of the most dreaded disease, boredom, the living death. All you have to do is open your eyes. And that's so true about many of the interests and hobbies. We have great courses here called the Great Courses here at Llano Library that are on everything from ancient history to the fundamentals of photography. And they are a great way to indulge and open your own eye or indulge your own interests. I personally love all of the ancient history sorts of things, and so I am addicted to our great courses. We have some really super ones, so I encourage you to come in and check those out, as well as some great books that we have about Texas history. There's all different kinds of ways to open your eyes and explore and enjoy the world around you, and the library is a big part of that. And also, there's lots of great places throughout Llano, Texas to enjoy natural beauty, our art festivals, and our public art. But please be sure to start first with your library because we can tell you a lot about them or help you find people who can tell you about them or refer you to great places in the library to learn more about the subject areas you're interested in. So if you'd like to check out Vincent's autobiography, stop by the front desk of the library and we'll have it ready for you.
This is what she used on my brother and her sister. Hacked them to pieces. We found parts of the bodies all over the house, in places you wouldn't think. The funny thing is the heads have never been found. Hands and feet and things like that, but no heads.
The wife, probably in a rage, threatened her husband with a knife and then, carried away by hysteria, took a swing at him and simply went on from there.
Well, she certainly went on. How many people did she kill, Mr. Pritchard?
Only two. Her husband and her sister. No one else was here.
So there are two loose heads just floating around in here somewhere?
You can hear them at night. They whisper to each other and then cry.
Since our host isn't here, would anyone care to mix me a drink?
Certainly. What will you have?
Good evening. I'm your host, Frederick Lauren. Since we're all strangers to each other, let's get acquainted with a drink, shall we?
Mr. Lauren, I advise you to call this party off now. The ghosts are already moving, and that's a bad sign.
Let me apologize for my wife. She'll join us later. What do you have?
Scotch and.
Doctor?
I'll have the same.
Now, before the party begins, let's go over the details. The caretakers will leave at midnight, locking us in here until they come back in the morning. Once the door is locked, there's no way out. The windows have bars that a jail would be proud of, and the only door to the outside locks like a vault. There's no electricity, no phone, no one within miles, so no way to call for help.
Like a coffin.
So if any of you decide not to stay for the party, you must let me know before midnight. Of course, if you leave, I shan't be able to pay you anything.
I'm interested in your reasons for this, party. Aside from the pleasant company.
Ghosts, Doctor. I think everyone wonders what they would do if they saw a ghost. And now my wife has given us all the opportunity to find out.
Amusing. Ghosts, etc., being only creations of hysteria, your party should be a success.
Well, Pritchard here promises us genuine ghosts.
7 now. Maybe more before morning.
That's cheerful.
4 men have been murdered in this house. And 3 women.
You planned your party very well, Mr. Lauren. 4 of us are men, 3 are women. Well, a ghost for everybody.
Well, Pritchard, why don't you take us on a tour through the house and let's see what happens, huh?
See that stain? Blood. A young girl was killed here. And whatever got her wasn't human. Don't stand there.
What do you mean? Where?
It's too late. They've marked you.
Ridiculous. The roof probably leaks.
Oh, that must be what it is. Who would want to haunt me?
I would say any self-respecting male ghost.
I hope it doesn't come back.
Well, Mr. Pritchard, you're the life of the party.
He hasn't even started yet. Wasn't there a man who threw his wife into a wine vat or something?
That was in the cellar. There's been a murder almost every place in this house. All this belonged to a Mr. Norton, who didn't die here. He was electrocuted later. Mr. Norton did a good deal of experimenting with wines, but his wife didn't think it was any good. So he filled the vat with acid and threw her in. She was supposed to stay down, but the bones came up. It's a funny thing, but none of the murders here were just ordinary. Just shooting or stabbing. They've all been sort of wild, violent, and different.
Look out!
God, she didn't fall in.
You mean there's still acid in there?
Destroys everything with hair and flesh. just leaves the bones. My, it's dry and dusty down here.
Well, there's a cure for that upstairs. Come on.
How'd you get invited to this party? No. Oh, go on. I mean, what did he tell you?
Mr. Lawrence said everybody'd get $10,000.
But he didn't say anything about being locked in.
No.
He just made the deal with me on the phone, but nothing about having to stay.
Aren't you going to stay?
If I don't, I lose $10,000.
I'm going to stay, too. $10,000.
Yeah. You believe in ghosts?
I don't know.
Well, I agree with what that doc says. You can spook yourself. I've done it in planes. Seen things that weren't really there. Or were they? What are you going to do with your $10,000? If we get it.
What do you mean, if we get it? Won't he pay us if we stay?
Ah, sure he will. 10,000 is no more to him than a nickel is to us.
We were in an automobile accident. Now I'm the only one in the family who can make any money.
Boy, I've never seen so many doors. Closet. Bottles.
Does it go anywhere? Lance! Lance!
Please, come on. Did she say Lance is gone? Gone where?
We'll have to break it down. It's locked.
Locked? You all right? Nothing that money won't cure. I must have bumped my head.
And the only way you could bump your head in here is to run head on into the wall. You didn't do that, did you? Let's get a bandage on that.
I wonder why they didn't kill him.
Who?
He didn't bump his head. They hit him.
They?
Nora, when you came in, you said something about a ghost.
There was something.
What did it look like?
Well, it was wearing a black thing that went all the way to the floor.
Weren't you a little frightened at the time?
Well, yes.
That, Mr. Loren, is hysteria.
Well, then, Doctor, how do you explain what happened to Lance? Was that hysteria, too?
You better get that checked in a day or so.
Thanks, Doc. Wait for me in the hall.
The ghosts are coming closer, Mr. Loren.
You really believe in your pet ghost, don't you, Pritchard?
Before the night's over, you will, too.
Would you like a drink, Lance?
No, thanks.
I'd like one. Scotch and. Mr. Loren, are you really going to pay anyone who stays all night?
Certainly. $10,000.
Will there be much red tape or delay?
You in a hurry, dear?
Frankly, yes. Or frantically.
There you are, my dear.
Someone or something was in here when I came in. But where? And if the door was locked, how did it get out? What you saw might have been a ghost, Nora, but what was in here with me was no ghost.
I don't know. I was so scared.
Does it sound different to you?
Yes.
Three, 6, 9, 12. 12 feet. Three, 6. Now, I'm going to knock on the other wall. When you hear me, you knock on this wall. Tap lower down. Where'd it come from?
From in here.
What if it ran out of here? I'd have seen it.
Lance, it doesn't run. It just floats.
Yeah, but why didn't I see it?
You don't believe me.
How can I?
I'm Annabelle Loren. You must be Miss Manning. I realize this is a very unusual and I'm afraid very dull party. Wouldn't you like to freshen up? This is your room. Depressing, isn't it?
I doubt if I'll spend much time here.
It's going to rain. Perfect atmosphere for my husband's party. Why did you come here?
He said he'd give me $10,000.
Why did he pick you?
I don't know. My supervisor just came and said I'd been invited.
How long have you known my husband?
I just met him tonight.
So? Why you? What were you doing wandering around by yourself?
Well, I was in the cellar with Lance, Mr. Schroeder, and I just left, that's all.
Don't do it again. Don't go anywhere in this house by yourself. Now fix your face and I'll come by for you in a few minutes.
But
You're in danger. We all are.
but who?
I hope for your sake you never find out. I'm Annabelle Lauren. Were you looking for something?
Not exactly.
Are you the doctor?
No, I'm Lance Schroeder.
The pilot. You've hurt yourself.
Oh, it's just a bump on the head. Which is my room?
I believe this is it.
Thank you, Mrs. Lauren.
Annabelle Lance. You were with the young girl in the cellar. Why was she so upset?
Was she?
And you don't look like the type to go around bumping his head. What really happened, Lance?
Well, Nora thought she saw a ghost, but I didn't see anything.
She was just frightened then.
And mad at me, I think. I kidded her about it.
I wouldn't joke about anything else that happens here tonight.
Now, don't tell me you're taking all this seriously.
Aren't you?
Well, I'd like to find out what hit me.
Lance. If I need help, may I count on you?
Yeah, sure, I guess so. Look, what's going on here anyway? I mean, what is with this party bit?
This is no party. He's planning something.
Your husband?
I wish I knew what it was.
Must be pretty big if he's going to lay out 50,000.
The money doesn't mean anything. He has a reason for getting us all up here to this dreadful old house.
Well, what for? He doesn't even know us.
Maybe that's exactly why you're here.
Well, what can he get away with?
Oh, he thinks that big money like his can get away with anything. You know, of course, that I'm his fourth wife. The first simply disappeared. The other two died. Lance, I don't want to join them.
You mean he,
Oh, his doctor said they died of heart attacks. 2 girls in their 20s.
Well, what can he do?
My husband is sometimes insane with jealousy. Nothing matters to him then. Please be careful.
Would he hurt you?
He would kill me if he could.
Annabelle, you're missing all the fun. Nora Manning was almost killed by a falling chandelier. The pilot bashed his head in.
Is he badly hurt?
The Saturnine psychiatrist bandaged him up. Don't you want to go and console him, as you do most men, in your fashion?
You're so clever, Frederick.
As I lie awake nights wondering why I married you. It was rather a mistake.
You didn't marry me, dear. I married you. Unpleasant, but no mistake.
Hurry up.
Frederick, for the last time, I'm not going to your party.
And for the last time, it's not my party, but yours. And you are going.
I am not.
You ready, dear?
No.
Are you ready, dear?
Yes, damn you.
Would you adore me as much if I were poor? No. All you want to be is a lovely widow. It's almost time to lock up the house. Then your party will really begin. I wonder how it'll end. close to midnight, Lance.
Okay. I'll be down in a minute.
Who is it?
Your host, my dear. It's almost midnight, Nora. We're all going to get together down in the living room.
All right, Mr. Lloyd. I'll be right down.
Come with us. Come with us before he kills you.
Where's Nora? Miss Manning.
I don't want to stay here.
Nora, what happened? That's Jonas Slides and his wife. They've been caretakers here for years. She's blind, you know.
I'm not going to stay here.
Well, Doctor, it looks like we have a real case of hysteria on our hands.
I think she's just a little upset, not hysterical.
Good evening.
Hello, my dear. This is my wife. These are our guests. Ruth Bridges, Dr. Trent. You know Watson Pritchard, of course. Nora Manning, and this is Lance Schroeder.
Get me out of here.
Now, what about the 10,000?
I don't care. He wants to kill me.
Who wants to kill you?
Mr. Lawrence.
May I have your attention, please? I think you all remember the bargain we made about staying all night. $10,000 apiece. If any of you don't survive, $50,000 will be divided amongst the rest of you. If I should die, you will be paid by my estate. When the door is locked from the outside by the caretakers, we'll all be forced to stay in this house until morning. If any of you decide not to stay, you must leave with the caretakers now. You won't have a chance to change your minds later, because there'll be no way to get out.
I don't want to stay.
Wait.
It isn't midnight yet. Who told them they could leave?
They never leave before midnight.
Well, they've gone now. I was going to ask you whether you wanted to stay or not, but it seems that the caretakers have made the decision for you. We're all locked in now.
But I don't want to stay.
And I'm sorry, my dear, but it's too late now.
Darling, haven't you had enough of the silly game? Get some cars up here for these people and let them go home. But pay them first.
This is your party, remember? In spite of my wife's faith in my ability to do the impossible, we will all have to stay in this house until 8 o'clock in the morning. But we have some party favors for you in these little coffins. This is my wife's idea. And I must say, I think it's rather dangerous. I suppose you all know how to use one of these things, but in case you don't, you just press down on this lever with your thumb and then pull the trigger. You see, they're loaded.
These are no good against the dead, only the living.
Doctor? Lance? Nora?
Go ahead, take it.
Miss Bridges? And here's yours, dear.
I don't need it.
It was your idea. Who knows, you may want to use it on me before this night is over.
Throw these guns away. They won't do you any good.
I agree with Pritchard on that point, although not for the same reason.
Dr. Trent, don't you approve of our little party favors?
Suppose Nora had had a gun when she mistook the blind woman for a ghost.
I don't think anyone else is going to walk around in total darkness.
Oh, I'm sure we're not going to go running around the house shooting each other, aren't you?
Who knows? Fear makes people do amazing things.
Mr. Pritchard, you said your sister-in-law killed a man and a woman here and cut them up? You said they found hands and feet, but they never found any heads. Would you like to see one of those heads? Would you all like to see one of those heads? Well then, just follow me.
Darling, I really don't need this.
Just go look in my suitcase. Just go look. But it was in there. A woman's head.
Nora, I think you're a little upset. Would you care for a sedative?
Get out! Get out, all of you! All of you, get out of here and leave me alone! Just get out of here!
You think it's all right to leave her by herself, Doctor?
I wish she'd taken the sedative.
Well, what do you suppose she thought she saw?
They're closing in on her.
Look, Doc, I think somebody ought to stay with her.
There could be 1 million people around her. But if they wanted her, they'd get her.
What if he's right?
He's too drunk to know what he's talking about.
I wonder. I'll join you in a minute.
Do you think it would do any good if you went in and talked to her?
Well, do you think there really was a head in her suitcase?
I don't know.
A thing like that would put me right over the edge.
Look, would you sort of stay up here, I mean, in case she needs help?
All right. I'll be in my room. Just call it.
Thanks.
Are you sure there are only 7 people in this house?
Positive, except for the ghosts.
I don't believe in ghosts, nor in frightening women. In Nora's case, it's gone far enough. Perhaps too far.
What do you suggest we do about it, Doctor?
Don't frighten her anymore.
Nora? Nora?
Nora? What do you know about this?
They've taken her. In a little while, she'll be one of them.
Where's Norton? Where is she?
It's too late. It's too late. You'll never find her again.
Pritchard, if you know where she is, you better tell me now.
She's gone. She's gone with him. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Lay her down. Nora?
She's dead, Mr. Lauren. Your wife hanged herself.
Suicide.
Please hide me. Please hide me.
What's the matter?
Hide me. He tried to kill me. He grabbed me and choked me and put me in that room. And then he went away and left me.
Who?
He thought I was dead.
Who?
Mr. Lord.
Are you sure about this?
I don't know. It was dark, but it must have been him.
Has anybody seen you since he left you?
I heard some people in that room, but I went by and nobody saw me.
Mrs. Lauren is dead.
But how?
Lauren said she committed suicide, but I think somebody killed her.
Him?
I'm sure you've come to the same conclusion I have.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, let's all have a meeting, discuss what to do. The living room?
Okay, in a minute. I've got to go downstairs. Now, you lock yourself in here and don't let anybody know you're here. If he thinks you're dead, he won't come here. And I'll get back as soon as I can. You'll be all right. And if you have to, you use it.
So beautiful. So greedy. So cold. What are you doing in here?
Wait. Don't wait.
What do you mean coming in here?
I didn't want them to take her away.
You're drunk.
They will if you don't watch her.
You're drunk. All right, out with it, Bridget. Why did you come into this room?
I'm the only one who understands.
Understands what?
Your wife isn't there anymore. She's already joined them.
Look, Bridget, I've had enough of your spook talk. Get out, you sot, and don't come back into this room again.
Where's what's-her-name? Nora.
I didn't disturb her since I don't think this concerns her.
No, you're right.
Mr. Loren, isn't there some way we can get out of this house now?
No, none at all.
We could try breaking out.
The only door to the outside is made of steel. The bars of the windows are set in solid stone. We gotta stay.
I'm not afraid of your ghosts, Bridget. But I am afraid. When we came here a few hours ago, the only thing we had in common was the $10,000 we'd get. Now, however, we share something else. The death of Mrs. Loren. So far tonight, one of us was almost killed by a falling chandelier. One of us was mysteriously slugged. One of us has been driven to the brink of absolute hysteria, and one of us is dead. Were these accidents? Suicide? And we must stay here for 6 more hours.
6 hours? 6 of us. Time enough.
Who'll be next? How will it happen?
Let me ask you a question, Doctor. You were the first one to see my wife there. Did you also see anything that she could have climbed up on and then jumped?
No.
Did any of you? There was nothing. How then did she get up there so high?
Exactly, Mr. Loren. How? She couldn't have pulled herself up there. She couldn't have dropped from the ceiling. Do you think your wife killed herself?
No. She was murdered by one of you.
Or you, Mr. Loren. To deliberately kill someone, you must have a reason.
We were all strangers to your wife. Only you had a motive for murder.
What husband hasn't at some time wanted to kill his wife? What husband hasn't had 1,000 opportunities to do it in such a way so that he'd never be suspected? I'm not such a fool as to hang my wife from a ceiling by a rope.
The fact remains that you, or one of us, murdered Mrs. Loren. And that's a matter for the police.
So how do we get the police?
That's my point. We can't until morning. What began as a silly party given by an eccentric has now involved us all in murder.
For once, Pritchard may be right. If another murder's in the works, let's stop it now.
Another murder?
Why not? Maybe one of us saw too much.
Why should even a millionaire want to give each of us $10,000 to spend one night in a gloomy old house? To see some ghosts, have a party? No.
Have you finished trying me, Doctor? And is the verdict guilty of murder?
Oh, this isn't getting us anywhere. Somebody killed Mrs. Loren. We know that. One of us is guilty and the rest of us are innocent. Okay. Now, what we have to do for the next 6 hours is protect ourselves from each other.
Do you really think?
I don't think anything. I just know that I'm going to my room. And if anybody comes in, I'll shoot him. Or her.
And if we all stay in our rooms, we'll be safe. Because the innocent will have no reason to leave his room. And the guilty will admit his guilt if he or she does.
And we all have guns.
And we're all agreed?
Oh, I wish this night were over.
Rooms? Guns? I tell you, it doesn't make any difference. They aren't through with us yet.
What's the use of saying goodnight?
Good night.
Good night, Doctor.
Nora, it's me, Lance. You okay? They've all gone to their rooms and locked themselves in.
Lance, I've been thinking. It was so dark down there. Maybe it wasn't Mr. Lorne.
It was him, all right. He tried to kill you, and he did kill his wife.
How can you be so sure?
She tried to warn me, asked me to help her. The doc thinks he's going to try and kill one of us. Now, there must be a way out of this place, and I'm going to find it and get the police before he does.
I'm going with you.
Well, if he finds out you're alive... No, Nora. You're safer here than any place else. Now, just lock yourself in and keep quiet. If I find a way out, I'll come back and get you.
An admission of guilt, Doctor?
Certainly not. There's either somebody else in this house or one of us has left his room. Did you hear anything?
Organ music?
That, and someone walking.
You got yours? Ready?
You look downstairs, and I'll look up here.
Why not together?
There may be only minutes, seconds left of someone's life. Why waste time? It's almost over, darling. Every detail was perfect.
What's happening?
We've done it. A perfect crime. Beautiful.
Has she killed him?
Not yet, but she will.
Get me out of this hanging harness. What's taking that girl so long? What time is it?
At first, I couldn't get Nora to want to protect herself with a gun. But after you appeared at the window, everything began to work just as we had planned. You were wonderful. Just the touch that finally drove her into complete hysteria.
It'll be worth all of our planning, darling. Where's Nora now? What's happening?
On her way to the cellar. So scared she'll shoot the first thing that moves.
And Frederick?
On his way to the cellar, too.
David, are you sure none of them will suspect us?
Of what? An hysterical girl accidentally shoots somebody? Who would suspect that we planned it that way, that we drove her to it?
What about my suicide?
But just a ghost party gag. We'll claim it was a dummy since I'm the only one who touched you.
And the caretakers?
But they had no idea what they were really doing.
What about Nora? She's not stupid, you know.
Darling, believe me, everything we've planned is working perfectly. Nora is sure Frederick murdered you. She thinks Frederick attacked her in the cellar, not me. And now Nora's almost out of her mind with fear. The heads, the music, you're hanging. I tell you, when Frederick walks in there, she'll shoot him.
It's taking too long. David, you ought to be there.
When you hear the shot, come down to the cellar.
David? David?
At last you've got it all. Everything I have. Even my life. But you're not going to live to enjoy it. Come with me, murderess. Come with me. You two planned was indeed perfect. Only the victim is alive and the murderers are not. It's a pity you didn't know when you started your game of murder that I was playing too.
There must be some way to get in here.
Oh, it's right along here, somewhere.
Lance! I've shot Mr. Loren. He's down in the wine cellar.
Alive?
I don't think so. It's him. He's alive.
You didn't shoot anyone, my dear. I loaded your gun with blanks. I can tell you all now. Trent and my wife were planning to kill me. They failed. Trent tried to throw me in the vat. My wife stumbled and fell. I'm ready for justice to decide if I'm innocent or guilty.
Now they're 9.
There'll be more, many more. They're coming for me now. And then they'll come for you.
So sci-fi special effects before CGI, before computer-generated effects, costumes, miniatures, gimmicks, stop motion, and animation. One of my favorite eras in cinema history is the 1950s. It was a golden era of science fiction and creature feature horror films. Long before computer-generated graphics, the creators of scary films had to rely on good scripts, imagination, and an amazing array of physical special effects, including makeup, costumes, miniatures, animation, animatronics, puppetry, stop motion animation, and more. This is just going to be a quick overview and tour, actually, of some really neat sites you can explore and some fun movies to start your exploration of 1950 science fiction and fantasy special effects from this era. The House on Haunted Hill exemplifies a style of special effect called gimmick effects, which were basically a big part of William Castle, who was the director of this film, his way of publicizing and getting his movies out. Gimmick effects brought an effect from the movie into the theaters themselves. In The House on Haunted Hill, the effect was called emergo. So like the skeleton in the movie, a skeleton would emerge from the dark and actually fly across the heads of the audience, which did not always work out too well in the actual theater. He also had another one, which was the Tingler, where he actually put electric buzzers underneath some of the chairs so people would scream in the theater. Again, that did not go so well in real life. So we're going to start off with a fun tour, and I am just going to take you on a little tour of some of the movies. We're going to start off with The Mummy, which is a great example of makeup and set design. As you can see, this is Boris Karloff, and we're going to look at some of the great photos from this. So basically, script, photos, set design, location were a big part of setting the tone and doing all of this. I believe that he actually had to be in the makeup chair from like 4 a.m. in the morning to achieve the effect of the mummy. And the mummy itself in this form is only in the movie for a very few minutes, but it makes such a compelling, it's so compelling as an image. It's the one we always think of when we think of the movie with Boris Karloff. But there were also these great costumes that were created. And the lighting and the special effects, as you can see. So you could raise a movie very high without computer generated effects. Look at the beautiful set designs, and it's just amazing. Now, how accurate this really is in relation to true ancient Egyptian art and mythology, but it's very effective for the movie. And so this is a great example of makeup and set design. Another fun one is actually The Thing from Another World. You may have heard of John Carpenter's The Thing, but this, The Thing, is The Thing from Another World. And it is, in fact, from 1951. The Mummy was from 1932, so I'm sort of taking you through history. 1932 sort of kicks it off. 1951 is the start of some of the golden era of some of the special effects that are costume and creature feature. This is James Arness of Gunsmoke fame as the monster. He's basically a giant vegetable guy. And it is the setting and the closed setting that really makes this stand out. And you can see, here he is as the monster. That's James Arness as the monster. Close up of him at the end of this movie. So some of the stars of the movie. And again, a lot of it's implied. This is the spaceship, but you don't see the spaceship. You see just a fin of it. and then the outline of it. There's a great scene where they create the form of the spaceship. It's another great special effect that has absolutely nothing to do with computer generation, but everything about using people's imaginations. It's really fun. We're going to go into suit actors and miniatures. There's a lot of examples of suit actors. Where did this go? I'm sorry for all of the ads. They are not endorsed or used by the library, but they come with being a part of this particular database so that I know I can show it to you legally. So this is the original Godzilla from 1954, and these are some of the great photos that they have available that you can see in their photo gallery. And what's really cool is, of course, you can see Godzilla, but he is an actor in a suit. He was 25 years old at the time. And let me see if I can get to one of the ones that really shows well how this is a set of miniatures. Here you go. So you can see some of this. This is the set. This is the gentleman in the suit, and there's some of the miniatures behind him. And then again, these are some of the miniatures, and this is inside the set. So a huge part of how they did it was meticulous creation of these other worlds in miniature that were then destroyed by the creature. And again, there's a little bit of puppetry involved as well. So that was really a big part of a lot of creature features of that time frame were of these creatures were people who were suit actors. They called themselves suit actors. Another way was the 1954 film, which was a combination of sort of animatronics, puppetry, and some miniaturizations as well, and how they filmed things. So this is the giant ant. This actually got an Oscar nomination in 1954 for special effects of the ant. Again, another example of no computer generation here. This is how they filmed, different filming techniques, cinematic techniques, how they put the stuff together afterwards. So really fun. And this is them. There we go. And this is the young girl who was very effective, James Arness, and another set of close-ups with the puppets and people. And then we're going to look at Forbidden Planet, which is very well known for it was robots, costumes, and animation. And so actually what's interesting is you have the person in the suit who's doing who's Robbie the robot, which you may remember. But then there are also, also this great set design. And then there is animation. Their special effects, rather than computer generated, they actually had they actually did they drew in the monsters, which was in color was a lot of fun. It's very interesting, the take on it. So as you can see, no computer generation, but fun effects as their spaceship lands, they interact. Then we have the House on Haunted Hill with its Emergo. And so its special effects with the emerging skeleton wielded by Vincent Price. And then last but not least, we're going to be looking at stop animation. And so an early British version of stop animation was the Giant Behemoth, which was trying to sort of mimic the great Ray Harryhausen. And we're going to look at Ray Harryhausen in a minute. But so this was a version that tried to do a bit of Ray Harryhausen's and a bit of Godzilla. It wasn't quite, it was a fun film. It was really well scripted, not as successful as a monster, but actually really fun to watch. A really good, really enjoyable script. So now we're going to look at Ray Harryhausen because I must have knocked him off. There we go. Ray Harryhausen is known for stop action animation. He's one of the people that helped design King Kong, the original King Kong. He actually, his family, he kept all of the models that he ever created, and his family's trying to preserve them and create a museum, and sometimes they go on tours. So these are some of the amazing creatures that he created. And what he is known for is that his creatures actually had personalities, and a lot of times you ended up rooting more for the monsters than you did for the characters and the actors. We go back to what I had before. There we go. Peter Jackson, many others. This is from Clash of the Titans, 2 of his models from Clash of the Titans, which is another 1980s classic. These go back well into the 1950s. Obviously goes back to the 1930s with King Kong. And his father actually created some of the under elements for the wiring for these things in the family's workshop. So it was actually kind of a family business for a while. And there he is with some of his things. So that is my introduction and my suggestion of a great era to explore in film is the 1950s science fiction. Some of it's going to have themes and tones that you're going to have to, that are very different from what we're comfortable with right now. And so certainly look at them from a cultural standpoint of who was making them and why they were making them and who they thought their audiences were, but also look at them from the standpoint, if you would like, of how they used their imaginations and things in the physical world to create something on screen that you took home with you as an image. And we have all kinds of craft books and fun books here that you are welcome to come and check out at the library. To look at doing some different kinds of things. We could help you find some stuff online. And also we have some fun crafts for Halloween that we're going to have for you to pick up that'll help you actually do your own monster movies. So as we get closer to Halloween, stop by the library. We'll have a couple of fun packets for you to pick up that'll help you create your own movie monster. So thank you for being a part of our public our annotated public domain movie watch party.